Hello, hello, hello. I'm excited to be joining you all from a house sitting location. I am checking out. Um, my topic for tonight has to do with something that's been really important to me, part of the reason that I was able to go on a sabbatical is because of a decision that I made 2 years ago. I actually, about 5 years ago, designed a course called Career Making Decisions. So, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about making decisions. We're going to talk about gaining clarity around those goals and those decisions. Then, I want to give you a brief example, and then I want to tell you about some great resources that are available on this topic, not just here in the YouTube world, but outside as well. So, for those of you who might be new to my channel, my name is Dr. Crystal Harris, and I'm a new retiree. I spent 20 years in higher education. 17-ish of those was teaching at a public institution in the state of Illinois in social science. I'm a social psychologist by training. I really enjoy teaching. But over the course of my career, I found that the energy that I was putting into teaching, based on what I was getting out of it, was just not going to be sustainable for me to contribute at the level that I felt like I wanted to contribute and I felt like I needed to be able to contribute. And for me, the decision was to retire and to give myself um, the opportunity to explore some other passions, rest, and redesign sort of the next chapter of my career. So, YouTube is a part of that, as long with some other things that I'll mention. So, if you're new to the channel, thank you for coming to watch this live stream. Thank you for subscribing. I would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button and become a subscriber. My plan was to go live every Wednesday, but as you can see, it's Thursday. And so for that reason, I realize I need to switch to Thursday. On my header, it says Wednesday. One of the reasons is because I was actually moving into this house yesterday, and I thought I would be able to do the live stream once I got settled, but that didn't pan out. Um, and then Christmas and then I think New Year's Day also fall on Wednesday. So actually, I do want to be on Wednesdays moving forward, but for the short term, will most likely be on Thursdays. So, what I am going to do a better job of is posting a message in the community to say, hey, the next live stream is going to be such and such day, such and such time, because I usually know that day on Wednesday if it's going to be on Wednesday or not. So, if you have been around before, I'm trying to be more consistent. I set a goal for myself to be more consistent coming here live, and I can already see some results of that. I'm really excited about how the subscriber count is growing. So if you know someone where this type of content about careers, particularly, I would say my space is more about the issues that you face as a person of color, a Black or brown person of color. And then my experience is primarily in higher education. And I've had many people tell me who are not teachers say, I really resonated with this thing you said or that thing you said. So I'm not, I like to be clear about who I have in mind in terms of my own experiences and expertise. But I also know that this content could be helpful to a lot of people. So let's get into today's topic. So I called this topic Getting Clear. And the reason why I think using the language of get clear is so important is because I think it's a simple concept. And when we use bigger words, it particularly as academics, we have a tendency, because we've had a lot of education, we have large vocabularies, we tend to use our words correctly. But I think clear has a level of action orientedness to it that I think is appropriate for the urgency with which I want you to get this particular topic. And when you get clear, I have notes over here again, as usual. When you get clear about where you're going and why it's important to go there, whatever that goal place is, then people can line up to support you or to not support you. And it actually saves you a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of energy knowing who's in and who's out. And so that is one of the external reasons that I think getting clear is important. I think internally it's important to get clear because when we tell ourselves we're not clear and we're not sure, we can't act, and it also prevents us from acting with confidence. Sometimes there are risks that we need to take, and we won't take those risks if we feel like there's uncertainty. So I've struggled with this for a lot, particularly when it comes to my career and sometimes in personal relationships as well. And so I want to just really share why or how I came to this particular topic for this week and for like this phase of the year. It's mid-December. And so it's not to say that the decision to get clear is very seasonal. You may find that as you get more information, what you thought you were clear on, it needs an adjustment or it needs a revision, right? And when that happens, it's necessary for you to put the work in to get clear again, because I don't feel like clarity comes like in this full technicolor, high resolution experience. I mean, some people may. I mean, I believe in manifestation, and I know that there are many tools, for example, vision boarding, that I myself have used and have found very powerful in terms of bringing to fruition the things that are important to me in my goals, and especially when it comes to my career. When I was working on my doctorate, I felt very stuck and like, I don't even know if I should finish this. I don't know if I should. I was too far in to start over, but I also wanted a doctorate. So I said, let me behave as if. That was one of the strategies that somebody gave me. And when you're confused, making a decision or uncertain, and you make a decision to get clear, one of the things that does is it allows you to behave as if that thing that you're shooting for, that you're clear on it. And when we behave as if we're clear, we can then get the momentum going to be able to act and make progress. And as we make progress, we gain confidence. So that was one of the reasons why this stood out to me as an important topic, because of the experience that I had when I was working on my dissertation. I also think it's related to this broader topic that I discussed last episode called the long game. And if I can, I will mention the long game or find a way to tag it in this video. I don't know which corner it's going to be. There's a way that the YouTube algorithm will recommend a video. But the one that I did last week was about the long game. And by the long game, I mean your legacy. The other thing that I learned way later in my career than I wished I had learned is that it's really important to have a long game. Like, what do you want to be known for? Who do people say that you are? I know that's like a quote from a Bible verse, but it's a really excellent metaphor for how you know. And actually, it's who do people say that I am? For those of you that are, Bible scholars. Jesus asked one of the disciples, who do people say that I am? And I'm encouraging you to think about, who do people say that you are? What do you stand for? What are you about? And that was such a really insightful aha moment for me when I was struggling with whether or not to, well, let me put it this way. I knew that I was going to stay in my job because I was close to retirement and I didn't want to jeopardize that. I was unhappy, but not miserable enough to jeopardize that. So I said to myself, what do I need to do to make sure that I can last another 4 or 5 years in this space? Like, what would really bring me joy? What would really bring me happy? So there's a lot of people who are talking about end of the year reflection exercises. And I actually have one that I'm going to recommend to you all. I actually don't have the link available, but I'm going to try to find it and go back and put it in. For those of you who are familiar with the Joe Club and the Fluency Club, she's a person who does a paid subscription program, but she's got great free resources on her Instagram page. And one of the things that she has is sort of like a 7-day life reset journaling prompt set. And she's got other things there, great resources. So I myself, a few weeks ago, started doing the 7-day. And I actually didn't do all 7 days. I just went through the 7 days of prompts and picked 3 or 4 that really stood out to me. because I think this time of year, it's really important for us to kind of reassess and look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, how are we doing it. I am a huge, I would say my legacy, people who know me now would say, oh, she's all about going on sabbaticals. She's all about resting. And this was something that I started doing before I retired, but claiming that for myself, putting it out there, messaging that this is going to be part of my legacy. I actually didn't have the language of legacy and long game at the time I was doing this, but I knew that the more that I spoke it out loud into existence, the more I was going to be able to fulfill that dream of going on a sabbatical at the end of my retirement. So my legacy during my career was actually a decision that I made to align my career and my time and my resources with the college student voter education movement. So nonpartisan voter education was like a big thing for the whole last 4 years. And I enjoyed being a part of that. I aligned myself with interdisciplinary groups of resources and professionals and experts at a national level and at some state levels as well, and became one of those resources and brought back to my campus programming ideas, put together task force teams, events. Yeah, so that's not important. You get the idea. So when people would see me at meetings or see me at events or hear me on a podcast, or people would say, I saw you on the news, such and such a thing, it would always be around college student voting, college student voting, voter education, getting students to vote. And then I think you have to also have sort of this messaging. I'm designing a program now that's going to talk about how do you talk about your legacy? Because part of getting your legacy achieved is finding people to support the movement of bringing that to fruition and clarifying who are the people that are going to benefit from that. So in my case, one of the strategies that I applied was, how do you set a goal that's so high and so important and so inspiring that it gives you goosebumps? I forget who I got that from, but anyway, it's not something I created. I just want to put it out there that somebody else shared that somewhere in the world, and I learned from it, stuck with me, and I'm probably paraphrasing somebody. So again, I'm not sure who, but I do know that I read something once about what if we could get every college student to register to vote and then decide to vote. And I was like, wow, that would be amazing. And for historical context, I come from a family that was very active in the civil rights. And my family's from Montgomery, Alabama, and they were involved in the movement to get people to register to vote at a time when people were being intimidated and told that they shouldn't vote or that it would be dangerous to vote. So I think that was another reason why it really resonated with me, is that I saw it as a way of continuing my family legacy and thinking about the things that my mom and the generation before her as educators, the role that they played as educators in having access to how people think. And they were K through 12, middle school and elementary school educators. But again, teachers spend a lot of time in those days when we didn't have TV and cable and mobile phones and tablets. The local school teachers knew the community and knew the family and were well known and respected in those institutions. So it was important to me to use my role as an educator to continue to inform and influence and educate people on the importance of voting, because I knew that our college students, many of whom were first generation college students, were going to have access to their families, their friendship networks, their neighbors, and we're going to be able to spread the message of the importance of voting. So I say all that to say that if you were to ask somebody even now who knew me, of course, I just retired 6 months ago, but who knew me last year and the year before, the thing that they associate with me is always talking to faculty and staff about how they could help be a part of this movement of bringing forward the vision of making sure that we talked to students about registering to vote. And while I'm on that soapbox, even though that's no longer part of my academic legacy, I'm not saying it wouldn't be again if I went back into the academy, but right now I'm not. I think it's important for you to know that one of the things that we learned during that research is that most students who don't vote don't vote because they don't know people who vote and nobody has asked them about voting. And that once they know and understand the benefits of voting, they're more likely to actually register to vote. They think it's some big, fancy, complicated thing when in fact, you can register to vote online if you have a driver's license and be done in 5 to 7 minutes. So it's important to get the word out that it's easy, that it's something everybody does, that it's important, and that it is the way that we communicate to the people who run our government what's important to us. We vote for people who believe what we believe. So that's what we were teaching. So I don't want to get too much as I love to talk about politics, or I should say I used to love to talk about politics. I'm not going to talk about politics, but I am going to say that I still believe that getting people to feel a sense of agency and ownership for being part of the decision-making process, for us, that's voting. I mean, there are other things you can do, writing letters, sending emails and calls to senator, giving donations, raising money. There are a lot. I mean, it's a continuum of things we can do, but feeling that agency and perceiving yourself as capable of getting a message to the people who are in charge, who you have put in place, is an important strategy at all levels of accomplishing a legacy. So right now, my legacy is a little different. One of my legacies now is that I found that in so many instances, people who are working in higher education are dealing with so much stress, pressure, overwhelm. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, so I won't go on with the list of negatives. And I want to change that. I feel like we assume that if you're an educator, K through 12 or higher education, that you should just like put your head in the guillotine and be undervalued, underpaid, in some cases disrespected and exploited, depending on where you are on the food chain. There's so many systems that reinforce the fact that people who dedicate their lives to education are like these self-serving sacrificial lambs, and that they obviously don't want and need to make money. And I think that's a bad mindset. I think it's unfair. I think it's exploitative. I don't think enough people are talking about pay inequity in particular, but I think there are a lot of things that we can do as individuals, if individuals know that they have the agency to do that, to make sure that we're moving the needle forward when it comes to things that educators need to be successful in the things that they're, talented and gifted in doing. So that is in a lot of ways, part of my new legacy is around providing career coaching, career experiences, career mentorship, at some point in the future, writing retreats and conferences. I just believe that there's so many resources that are available out there, that because a lot of these folks are so dedicated and have their nose to the grind, overworking, they're not looking up. I'm talking to you. You're not looking up to say, hey, I don't have to be treated like this. I don't have to take this. I can move on, either to an institution where I'm going to be treated well, or to a role where I'm not in this sort of toxic, dysfunctional, unhealthy relationship with work or with colleagues or with leadership, or all of the above in some cases. So I think the thing that I wanted to talk about is what are some of the benefits that happen when it comes to actually the decision to get clear. Once you decide to be clear, one of the benefits of getting clear is that because you have that decision of, okay, this is what I'm working toward. For example, when I decided that I wanted to be the face of the college student voter movement, that meant that I couldn't be the face of 7 other things. And in the past, the way I had run my career was I helped whoever asked me to help. And so it sort of becomes like a litmus test or a measuring stick for you to decide, is doing side project A, B, C, D, and E, any one of them or all of them, going to help me move the ball forward on the legacy that I'm actually choosing, that thing that I'm clear about, that I now want to be known for, that I want to make a difference in. So understanding what to do and what not to do, to be able to use that as a measuring stick. So when somebody would say, hey, we need a person to serve on such and such, we have this search committee, that search committee, I would often say, well, I would love to help you, but I'm going to be out of town at a such and such. I would love to help you, but I'm taking a group of students to do blah, 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 blah. I would love to help you, but I have a grant deadline due that day. I have a grant report due that day or that week or that weekend or whatever. So it allows you to be clear. And it reminds me of that Stephen Covey quote. You have to keep the main thing when you are clear on what your goal is. And your goal for to me, the breakthrough for 2025 is that you can thrive if you don't have 7 things on your plate. You know, my hope for you, or my dream for you and my clients, is that you could get very, very, very clear on what are the things that you're working on that give you goosebumps, that keep you up at night in a good way because you're excited to work on them, that you're having, you know, fresh ideas, innovation. You're working with people who are passionate about what you're passionate about. This is the life that I think you have when you're very, very clear. You start surrounding yourself with people who are thinking like that and wanting what you want, even if not that thing, but people who might be great mentors, sponsors, allies, because they too are passionate about a thing. They're not just cogs in the wheel and on the hamster wheel. And so because you're clear, you know what to do, you know what you're not able to do, you know who's on your team, who are your allies, even who are your competitors. And by competitors, I mean people who may outwardly disagree with you, who don't think that thing that you're working toward is something. So for example, there would be people who say, oh, these kids today are apathetic. You know, I'm not going to do that. That's a waste of time. They're never going to show up and vote. They might say they are, but I'm not going to do it. They just thought it was dumb, you know, for whatever reason. But you have these conversations and you begin to understand how even the people who are naysayers can be used effectively as part of your strategy. That's a whole nother video. I don't want to go into that today. But you also begin to talk about and show up with a message. And as you begin to be consistent around that messaging, people then begin to identify you as associated with that thing. And so people are out there spreading the word for you. People will sometimes say, well, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that, but I will, you know, share it with my class. I'll share it at my department meeting. I'll share it at my college meeting, or you can come into our meeting and you can make an announcement, or, you know, whatever it looks like for you. So these are examples that are in higher education, but, you know, this could happen in corporate America or in a lot of places. So I just wanted to say that I feel like another benefit around the clarity is that, which gets to my title, it leads to confidence. So because you've become clear, you've made a decision. Because you've made a decision, you're now acting as if you're consistent with that decision. And at first you're doing it 1 time, and then 2 times, and then 3 times. And then somebody who was there the first time remembers that you've done it twice. And then that person is also, in many ways, a carrier, an indirect result of the movement, because they are becoming committed to what you're becoming to. So that commitment then builds confidence. And because of that confidence, I feel like a lot of times we're seeing progress because we're being consistent. And because we see the progress, that the confidence grows again. And so it becomes sort of another, an unending cycle of change in a good way. And it's not to say that there aren't complications, there aren't issues, there aren't roadblocks, there aren't people who become, people notice you're showing up differently and they don't like that they now can't use you the way they used to use you. So again, that's a whole nother video. What I want to do is close by telling you that you can get clear. You can make a decision that you're going to take time to get clear. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to make a really easy, quick decision. I'm hosting a free masterclass next Monday from 1 to 3 Eastern on Zoom. There's a registration link in this video down below. Would love to see you participate in that. And I think that could go a long way, those 2 hours, if you could pull aside 2 hours to get yourself thinking about what are the things I need to do to get clear. There are some specific questions you need to ask yourself to look at all the things you're working on and which are the things that you're working on make sense to go with you into 2025, and which are the things that you're working on, even if you don't know how you're going to. Part of getting clear is deciding that you need to decide. So deciding to get clear leads to the decision of what you're getting clear about. And once you decide to get clear about some things, you're going to have some yeses, some nos, and I would say yes, hell no, and some stuff in the middle. But as you continue to commit yourself to that thought process, that next year I'm going to have a breakthrough in this area, and that's going to be my legacy, that is going to take you a long way toward having a better, more thriving 2025. So that's all I have for my notes today. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I see that I'm at my time, and I look forward to hearing in your comments whether or not this has been helpful to you. Is there something that you need to get clear about? What were one or two things that you think you need to get clear about at work? I would love to hear that in the comments. Thank you so much. Namaste.